Now, one of Edwards' revisions of Reformed theology was his fiddling with the doctrine of justification, which is, as Alsted said in 1618, the article of faith on which the church stands or falls. Right, so this is a notorious bone of contention among Edwards scholars. It's like an intractable and immovable rugby scrum with neither side able to move the other. I am on the side of those who are suspicious of Edwards regarding justification. It's not that Edwards never said anything orthodox or that he never said orthodox-sounding things on justification. People have shown that he clearly did. The problem is that he said other things that are not easily squared with what the Reformed churches confess. Further, because of his pantheism, or pantheizing tendency, if you want to put it that way, there's an underlying problem in his doctrine of justification, and that's a doctrine of theosis, or divinization. Michael McClymond described this problem in a 2003 essay, and I cataloged most of the literature on this question in Recovering the Reformed Confession up to about 2007. For example, see Thomas Schaeffer's essay, Jonathan Edwards and Justification by Faith, and it is linked on the Heidel blog, so you can read it. I've tried to make it available for you. It's published in Church History, 1951, pages 55 to 67. This is a seminal essay, which strangely some defenders of Edwards on justification have ignored. I don't know why that is, because it's very well known. It's not obscure. Anyway, it's online, and I've got a link for you. More recently, George Hunsinger, W. Robert Godfrey, and others have raised questions about Edwards' doctrine of justification. For example, see George Hunsinger, Dispositional Soteriology, Jonathan Edwards on Justification by Faith Alone, in the Westminster Theological Journal, volume 66, 2004, pages 107 to 120. W. Robert Godfrey, Jonathan Edwards, and Authentic Spiritual Experience, which is a paper presented at the Knowing the Mind of God Conference, 2003, at the Westminster Conference in London, 2004, and I think that's in print. Gary Stewart, ends with a D, S-T-E-W-A-R-D, Faith and Obedience in Jonathan Edwards' Understanding of Justification by Faith Alone, just an unpublished paper, so I don't know how you're going to get that, but maybe it's online somewhere. Jonathan Gerstner and Jonathan Neal Gerstner, Samuel Logan, Jeffrey Waddington, and Brooks Hollifield have all defended Edwards' orthodoxy on justification, and you can look at the article and see the bibliographic information on that as well. So these are all pieces. There's a whole large, long list of pieces seeking to defend Edwards on justification, but I don't think that they exceed, because I don't think they adequately address the problems that so many have observed. Not only the profound underlying problem identified by McClymond, but also what Hunsinger aptly described as his, quote, dispositional, close quote, doctrine of justification, which is another way of saying justification through habitus, which was one of the bones of contention of the Reformation. Are we justified because of a disposition or a habitus within us, or are we justified solely on the basis of Christ's righteousness credited to us and imputed to us, received through faith alone? Gerald McDermott recognizes that Edwards does not fit neatly in a Protestant box on justification. He recognized that according to Edwards, we are justified because we are sanctified, which is the basic issue in the Reformation. When Edwards' defenders cite his use of the language of imputation, they don't seem to grasp adequately that there have long been versions of the doctrine of justification going back to Gropper and Contarini in the 16th century that have taught both justification by sanctification and by imputation. And I've written an essay on this. You can take a look at it. It's in the footnotes of the article from which I'm reading. Luther addressed this in 1518, 1519 in his doctrine of double justification. He argued that we're justified before God, coram Deo, on the basis of Christ's righteousness imputed, and before men, coram hominibus, those are the phrases that he used, by our sanctification. The latter, right, our justification before men, is really just vindication. But Luther and the rest of the magisterial Protestants prioritized the forensic, the legal doctrine of justification before God, right? Imputation is the basis over the realistic. In other words, we're not justified on the basis of anything done by us or done in us, to use the language of or paraphrase of the language used by the Westminster Divines in Westminster Confession, chapter 11.